Today, I talked to Kristina about her business and about our collaboration. And we come to that later, but so it's about her business and about my business. And let's start with introducing you first.
Mhm.
Um, we met round about 3 years ago, and I booked a class that you offered, the Yin and Ping.
Mhm.
And that was a yoga class, and it's had the retreat to it, a mini retreat. And I still had quite a small child at that point, and I figured I need a retreat, even if it's just 3 hours. And that's where I met you first. So at that point, you were a yoga teacher. What exactly did bring you onto the way of yoga?
Great question. Um, Being broken. So this is probably that's all we need to say. So I got into yoga in my early 20s. I caught something called glandular fever or Epstein-Barr virus. And because of my constitution, I pushed through and kept pushing and ended up burning myself out and in something called chronic fatigue. So I tried all kinds of ways of healing myself, and did acupuncture with a woman who was around the corner from the workplace that I was at, and she was also a yoga teacher and an Ayurveda practitioner. So she started this journey and told me you need to get into yoga to strengthen your core and strengthen your back, which is ironic because I'd spent 10 years prior to that being a gym bunny, right? But not, and doing a lot of cardio, doing pump classes and circuit classes, but hadn't really developed any strength. So that was how I got into yoga, was to fix my broken. And it wasn't only the physical broken, it was the energetical and the energetic and the emotional and the spiritual broken. But when I started, I just thought it was about the physical.
Mm.
Mm.
And then you just stayed with that path. You went to become a yoga teacher,
Yeah.
and now, or then at some point, you went to becoming or mainly a yoga teacher
Mm.
and start your own business.
Yeah, yeah. So yoga basically once I started, I didn't stop. So I kept doing yoga through my pregnancies. I kept doing yoga. It was my way of staying grounded in the world, and I needed that grounding. Like I needed to be anchored, and so my practice was about standing poses, and every day I'd return to my body, return to my breath, and I really through the years established a relationship with my body. So previously I'd done the exercise because I didn't have a relationship with my body and I didn't like it and I thought there was something incredibly wrong with it, and yoga kind of transformed all of that and got me back in my body in a healthy way. So when it's been so transformational, then of course I wanted to share the beauty of this transformational practice with the world, and became a yoga teacher and studied under the Anyasara yoga method, which really I loved because it brought in the spiritual aspect and the philosophical aspect of yoga just as much as the physical aspect. And for me, that's really it's the original psychology as far as I'm
Mm.
concerned. So then I started teaching yoga and started a business, Yoga to Transform, with the purpose of improving the quality of women's lives about 5 years ago. And that has kind of, as that I've kind of, life has morphed in the last 5 years of stepping into making the decision I want to transform the quality of women's lives and I want to share the gift of yoga. I've just kind of trusted how that's evolved. So it's less about yoga nowadays and more about Ayurveda and personal training and helping women reconnect positively to their bodies, which I guess has been my own journey, right? So we teach what we know.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah. So now, how does a typical week for you look like?
Busy. So I guess so. We started as a yoga business, and then in that journey, I started studying personal training, and I started studying Ayurveda, health and wellness coaching. So the personal training, I then became a personal trainer because there's such a link between personal training, like building the muscles, building the bones, connecting to your body, and Ayurveda and wellness for women, that I was like, wow, it was a coincidence that I did the course, and then it was just the right thing to do. So I became a personal trainer and have in the process of closing out my a couple of years of Ayurveda wellness coaching and counseling study. So kind of bringing all of that together to help women get like reconnect with their bodies and really learn how to have a fit, strong, healthy body that they feel really good in.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I use reconnection in my business too,
Mm.
but probably in a different way. But we come back to that later. So, over the years, what would you say was the biggest shift you have seen in your clients? Do you have any stories that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I think over the years I taught yoga since 2007, and so my client base had always been yoga people. Um, and then in 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when I shifted into the personal training and the Ayurveda consulting, I really narrowed down to I am supporting the woman who's over 35 and really struggling with her weight and her well-being, mentally and physically and emotionally. Um, and so the clientele has shifted from a general kind of group of people who come in for a group exercise experience, of a yoga class, to a really specific person who is successful in her own right, does amazing, incredible work in the world, but really has this block or this pain point of not being enamored with her own body, and giving her the tools that she needs to really create a dream body that she can feel at home in and feel comfortable in. So it's been a big transformation to actually, I just work with women over 35 who want a great body and are willing to kind of do what it takes to get there. Mm.
Yeah, I think you already explained the what is personal training beyond just exercise.
Mm. Yeah, well, I think traditional personal trainers, it's you come and you get a good workout, right? And then you go home and do it all over again. And you get that with me, like you can from a personal training perspective, you come and you get a good workout. But because I have the Ayurveda, so Ayurveda is like the sister science to yoga in terms of more medicinal. It's the science of longevity, right? So how do we stay young for as long as possible and vibrant and energetic for as long as possible? Which is why personal training is so important, because actually that's part of the equation. So what my clients tell me is that I I only offer personal training as a service, but I can add the coaching from the wellness perspective on as well. And that I'm quite unique in the fact that you can either go see a dietitian or you can see a personal trainer, but when you work with me, you kind of get it all. Plus, you get a therapist as well. So it's like a lot of stuff happening in our sessions. Yeah. Which at the end of the day, what I'm working to do is change a woman's identity so that she is just the woman who is makes choices about supporting her longevity and optimal well-being for the future.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from personal experience, what I always liked working with you back in the yoga practice, but now also in personal training is you always challenge me to exactly the right point. You know, I do feel I have to work out hard to get to that bar that you put there, but I can do it most of the time. And it feels so rewarding being challenged every single time.
Yeah.
And it's still fun because I think in most workouts that we have together, I still can have a good laugh at some point.
Sometimes the laughing interrupts the workout, but um,
True.
yeah, so yeah, definitely it is fun and I do challenge and I know when to push and when not to push. And I think that that's one of my clients says, you know, the reason that I work with you is because you're a really good coach. And, you know, the coach knows when it's time to push it to the next level, and the coach knows when it's time to pull it back or whatever. And the coach knows when it's time to talk about, hey, let's address this behavioral pattern that's outside of our training relationship that's affecting the results here.
Mm.
So yeah, it's yeah, I know how to push people.
Yes, you do. But it's still fun. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that's a good point about it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got to have fun, right? Like, we take ourselves so seriously, and most of the women that I attract are similar to me. So my constitution is a very driven, very ambitious, very kind of like successful, focused, intense kind of constitution. Always on the move, and we forget to be playful. And
Oh
so,
yes.
yeah. So it's nice to kind of bring that balance where actually I might say something and it's halfway through a set of pulling weights and it's so darn funny that the woman can't pull any more weights because she's laughing her head off. And you know what? That's just as good for you as doing the extra 5 reps, if not better, because you're learning how to not take it so seriously.
True. I do remember one time when I laughed so hard and you were like, if you can laugh that hard, you need more weight. No. Oh yeah. And another crack of laughter. It's like, yeah.
So true though, right?
So you and I,
Hmm.
we do have a swap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I swap you hypnotherapy and
Yeah.
you swap me the personal training. And can you remember how we got there?
I think we were just having a conversation one day, and then I was like, "Oh, well, if you want, we can." Because you were telling me about your business, and it was in the early stages of your business, and I was like, "Well, if you want, we could do some swaps. You know, I could do some PT for you, and you could do some hypnotherapy for me." Now, mind you, I'd never done hypnotherapy, so I had no idea what I was kind of swapping for. Um, but there's that part of me that likes to really support women. You know, improve the quality of women's lives. That's what my mantra is. So it's like I love to support women when they're starting an endeavor, and help them to be successful. So I guess it just came from there. I don't know. What do you think? How did we come to the arrangement?
I think, yeah, I think it happened because we knew each other before I trained.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had that connection. And back then it was just about the yoga. And I think then we had a break in between, but just because there was no way of making connection at that point. And then I think I saw it on your newsletter that you did do the PT. And I just booked myself in and then we chatted about and you were like, what did you do? And I was like, yeah, I trained up for hypnotherapy. And you were like, uh-huh. What's happening there? Let's swap. And then yeah, that's how it started, basically, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What because at that point, I mean it's been a while. We have done that for I think 1.5 years now.
Mm. Mm.
But do you remember before you had your first session with me, what you were thinking about what it could be or any ideas preconceptions that you had about hypnosis? Because I think a lot of people have ideas about what hypnosis is. And
Hmm. No. Oh, I think you've frozen. Yeah, I think you froze,
yeah,
but
I just
um,
saw it. No, I was frozen. Could you still
I got it.
hear my
I got it.
question?
Yeah, so look, no, I didn't. I guess so. When I was young, they used to have this thing. There was a show that would come to town, and there was always one of the entertainers was a hypnotherapist, and so I watched that a few times where he would get people on stage and hypnotize them to be chickens and all of that kind of stuff, right? So I was like, all right, so that could be one option. But to be honest, I had actually no real idea or no real expectations of what might happen in a hypnotherapy session. I was more interested in, I guess, learning about, well, I've got a real connection. My part of my personal growth philosophy is my responsibility is to remove as many obstacles to my kind of highest potential as I can.
Mm.
And so I've always worked with a coach of some kind to kind because they push you further and faster. You get where you're going much faster. And I guess I kind of looked at hypnotherapy as maybe another way where when you're dealing with a coach or a therapist, it's more conscious work, right? It's I'm aware of this and I'm going to analyze it and think about it
Mm.
and kind of come up with a mental solution, right? And in our society, we're really in the mental body. So from a yoga and Ayurveda perspective, there's many bodies but we've really gotten into the mental body. And there's a deeper body, which is the kind of wisdom body. And I guess I thought we could get there through a subconscious kind of lens. And a lot of my behavior sometimes comes from a deep place that I've got no idea where it's coming from. So,
Mm.
let's try and attack it from whatever angle we can.
Yeah, yeah. So after having some sessions now,
Mm, mm.
what do you think it is?
I think it's a really deep form of therapy. Um, that's incredibly transformational. I wouldn't even like that perception that I had of hypnosis where you kind of go deep and you close your eyes and then like that doesn't happen in a session. I feel quite lucid and conscious, so I'm surprised at where we go.
Mm.
Um, and it's always a huge release in so it's always very deep and powerful work that we're doing that if I had been left in my mind to try and say this is what's going to happen and this is what is sitting beneath the surface, I would never have gone there. So it's just deep transformational therapy that takes you to places that you need to go and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it can sometimes look scary
Mm,
beforehand.
mm,
I mean, that is in a session, we usually have the conscious talk first.
mm.
We usually talk about what do you want to work on? Where do you think it could come from? What do you think it is connected to? It's like we do that part. It's all on the conscious. And then we usually do the hypnosis part, which is looking into the subconscious where things are really connected. And yeah, I do love that part because, first of all, there's the transformation
Mm.
and also what shows up, what comes up, the situations that sometimes you wouldn't even think of that they are lying underneath.
No, goodness no. I mean, there's been sessions where it's just like, wow, how would we like there's no way that I could have connected the dots from the conscious conversation that we had to the um experience that we had in the hypnosis part of the session at all. There's no way at all. Um, and that I think is really cool because it's complete surrender, right? I'm dropping control of how this is going to turn out. I'm also surrendering to what lies beneath. And we all know that, like, there's the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, our conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, and there's like 85% underneath, which is unexplored territory. So to just surrender to wherever that may take me is a powerful practice. So it's been quite transformational. Yeah. And letting go of control and going beyond the story. So I think, you know, if we are doing coaching or talk therapy or whatever, sometimes you can get caught in your story. Like,
Mm,
this is my
yes.
15% that I know about above the surface. Da, 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 da. Like, let's just rehash this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Um, and or we can just dive underneath and see something bigger. Mm.
Yeah, because I think, especially when it comes to the story,
Mm,
our subconscious stores everything, and our subconscious does store the stuff that we don't consciously remember sometimes.
mm,
And that is why, to me, it's somewhere between detective work and putting together a puzzle.
mm,
But
mm,
it's always so, the outcomes are always so beautiful. And I think, especially you often said, like, oh, that was so powerful. It's enormous. What kind of shift happened here?
mm, mm. Absolutely. And I think also too that part of the subconscious, like, is that collective unconscious, like that Carl Jung talks about, and also the kind of ancestral lineage stuff as well. So there's from a yoga and Ayurveda perspective, part of the work that we have to do to bring ourselves back into balance is not only digest our own stories, right, but also digest the stories of the generations who've come before us. So there's practices that we have in Ayurveda around, like, how do I digest the history of my lineage, because we that comes through us, in our mother's eggs. Like, it just goes
Yeah,
down the lineage. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that is something that came up for me on my journey when I learned how to do hypnosis for others. So what did I do? I did it with myself every day
Perfect.
and dig up all the stuff that was in my system. And yeah, it took, I think, a year or so. And then I was onto the ancestral part of healing. And yeah, to me, I also think it's amazing what you can do. And it does make, scientifically spoken, it makes sense too,
Mm,
because of what we know now about how our DNA works,
mm,
and what has been seen in studies with animals, that we do inherit trauma and we do inherit, yeah, things that have happened. And since we are already within our grandma's wombs, because yeah, the eggs already start to be there in the female fetus before
mm.
birth. It's like we have a lot of stuff that we are carrying, and from that part it's just interesting. And from the,
Yeah,
yeah, spiritual path, it's also interesting to where ancestral work can get you to.
totally. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. And I'm also a student of something called A Course in Miracles. And when we have that change in perception, which is when we have the miracle moment, or we see an experience differently, or we forgive it finally, or whatever it might be, like, it's they say you kind of change 7 generations backwards and 7 generations forward. So um yeah, doing the deep work is important, not only for your life experience, but also for the life experience forwards and backwards too. So it's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you, or can you put a Can you put a finger on what you would think was the most powerful session for you in transformation, or the most powerful topic that we worked on? I don't know.
Yeah, good question. I think so we've covered all kinds of topics. So we've talked about my business and my business vision and the blocks that I have in terms of going for my business. We've talked about money, like, and the blocks around money. We've talked about my relationships within my family and how I feel within in that kind of group of people, and talked about my relationship with my children and regret and kind of all the guilt that I carry around all the mistakes that I made as a mother along the way. And then we've talked about relationships more recently, like, I'm a single
Yeah.
woman and would love to meet somebody, but obviously there's been stuff standing in the way there. So we've done that. So we've kind of covered it all. The only thing we haven't covered is body, but that's because that's my area of expertise. But I'm sure you could really help someone there too. So they've all been incredibly powerful. And I think, like, I've had this dominant story my whole life that there's something incredibly wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm fatally flawed. Like, there's something incredibly wrong with this human. And probably the work of my relationships within my family, and my family like are really cool humans. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say they did a bad job, because I kind of look at my sisters and I, and we're all really well adjusted and quite successful people. So it's like you can't have done a bad job and have three well adjusted children, like,
Mm.
come out of it. Like this, there might have been things that weren't quite perfect, but I think in that old process of forgiving myself for the parenting decisions and choices and impacts that I made, like, it's just part of the journey. So, but coming to kind of accept that me making decisions about how flawed I was and how bad I was and how I wasn't the right kind of person, um, came from me not quite fitting into the family dynamic. Like, I'm a little bit different to the rest of them. And that's not a bad thing, right? But
Nope.
I made a judgment about myself, which was, because I'm not like them, there's something wrong with me, right?
Mm.
And that core belief like filters out into every part of life. It's like it's going to hit me in business, it's going to hit me in finance, it's going to hit me in love, it's going to hit me in even my body, my relationship to my body. It's like I'm going to look at life through this lens of there's something wrong with me. So I think that session where I saw actually there's nothing wrong with me and I was still really loved by everybody in my family. I was just different, and kind of making peace with being different and not being, because it was always like I'd take a drama class and dad would say, why would you want to do that for? Or I'd be like, so I'd quit my job and I wouldn't get another job. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna start a business. Or I'd leave my partner because I'm not happy. And it's like I do the yoga and I didn't drink, and like, so there's all of these things that made me different, but didn't mean that there was anything wrong with me. But I interpreted my differentness as, shit, I'm a really flawed, failed human. Because we just want to fit in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that true.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We want to fit in, and it's like, what's wrong with me that I'm not like them? Nothing. I'm just different, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is something that I have quite often, these change of perspectives,
Mm, mm,
because that was the story you have told yourself.
mm,
And then we looked at what was underneath it. And then just looking at yourself from all these new angles, and maybe even meeting, inner children or inner teenager, younger parts of yourself that weren't integrated yet, weren't healed yet. We're still in some, their own scenarios.
Mm.
Yeah, that happens really, really often. That when you do change perspective and when you do give yourself new information to a situation, because the situations have happened in our past for sure.
Yes.
But today we can look at them from today and we know we have survived them. And when we like ourselves, that we can like these older parts of ourselves too. Even though that's sometimes hard because in the past we might have done some, yeah, things that we are not too proud of. And I think especially when it comes to teenagers, for example, it's difficult to get back to those parts and be completely open with them and say, I love you, because yeah, we can be quite quirky as teenagers, can't we?
Yeah, we can be. We can
Yeah.
be. Absolutely quirky as teenagers. It's a challenging time, being a teenager, but I think the journey of life is, and yoga and Ayurveda talk about this thing called enlightenment or freedom, right? And I think ultimately what I've taken it to mean is that there's this freedom from resentment or bitterness or regret or false belief or illusions, and it's just settling into, all right, this is complete acceptance of who I am. This is complete acceptance of the life that I've lived. This is complete acceptance of the experience that I'm having right in this moment. This is complete, like I'm not battling with reality anymore. Like I am in love with it. And that's, like, for me, that's freedom. And I guess part of doing things like the hypnotherapy and the coaching and is, um, how do I find freedom, which is like embracing and loving every part of this moment, like seeing the beauty and the goodness of this moment and what a gift it is, even when it's a challenge, right? Because there's some challenging things that happen in life, you know. People wake up in the morning and they decide that they don't like you anymore, or your children kind of tell you some crazy news and you're like, whoa, you stand on the scales and you're like, oh, like whatever it is, it's like, how do I keep myself back to love really fast?
Yeah,
All of it.
so true. Um, I have often heard the phrase that it's a long way. You have to walk a long path to healing.
Mm,
I myself think that especially when you use hypnotherapy, it can shorten that path that you walk
mm,
quite a lot because you're not doing it all in the conscious mind, but you do go into the subconscious, see where everything is linked together and release the root cause of everything. Um, if you wouldn't have experienced hypnotherapy by yourself, would you have recommended it to your clients? And what changed because you have experienced it now?
um, I probably would have recommended it to my clients because of our relationship. So I would have been like, oh, hey, look, well, sounds like you're struggling. Maybe you need some extra help. I know this great woman. She does hypnotherapy. I don't know anything about it, but hey, why don't you give it a go? Right. So I probably would have, on the basis that I know you, trust you, and think you're a fabulous human. Um, Now, like for me, I guess, even when we did that hypnotherapy session where I was like, oh, look at this underlying kind of false belief that I'm embedded in, and I knew it was there, but we kind of went to, at a whole different angle, a whole different layer. For me, absolutely, I would recommend it. And it's not about, for me now anyway, it's not about trying to fix something wrong with me, but it's about how do I kind of get into the higher levels of joy and peace and love that I can get into and kind of remove the obstacles that are holding me back in my way. Because I am like my biggest like obstacle. I am the biggest limiting factor in my life, holding me back from whatever I want. Um, so if you are still stuck in the paradigm that you're a problem to be solved and there's something wrong with you, I think hypnotherapy will help. If you are in the paradigm that, hey, I'm a human, I'm not making my human wrong, but I am really keen to take myself to the next level, I think hypnotherapy will help. Um, and it's going to surprise you every time. And I think I've had very deep emotional releases, and there's been sessions where I've just cried and cried and cried and cried, so it's helpful. It really is helpful. And I think I probably said, hey, we could do a swap because my coach has a hypnotherapist that she works with. So
Mm.
I knew, and she's a high achieving, successful woman. I'm like, well, if it's okay for her, it'll be okay for me.
Yeah, maybe we should all have our hypnotherapist somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, you say a thing there. I think when it comes to fixing, that's probably what people come in the first place. Like, I have this pattern, I want it to be fixed. But I think it's more about healing and freeing yourself.
Mm,
Like when I do a session with myself, first of all, I still learn things about myself where I think like, oh, interesting. I didn't think about that. Thanks. Um, but I always feel lighter
mm,
after every session. And another client of me said it the other day after a session, she said, I feel so empowered. And I thought like, thanks you for saying that because yeah, that basically is the same that I often experience. Like it empowers me
mm, mm,
to reach new levels.
mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think whenever you pull back a layer of yourself that is covering, well, I guess we look at it in yoga and Ayurveda as the guys when they go to the moon and they have the moon visor on and they're looking out to the world. But what we have with our moon visors is that it's all speckled and cracked and kind of dusty and dirty. And so when we do things like the hypnotherapy, you're cleaning up a part or you're fixing a crack or you're cleaning it, and so that you can see more clearly.
Mm,
And so when we're walking through the world, we think that we see the world as it is, but we're really seeing the world as we are. All the stories, all the history, all the conditioning. And so the work of but all of the things is about how do you just see more clearly? And I think one of the biggest things in Western paradigm is that we're all a problem to be solved, and there's something wrong with us, and we've all got this deep trauma, and we've all need therapy, and da 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 da. And we all get caught up in our stories, which is wonderful, because we do a lot of work to overcome that. But at the end of the day, the Ayurveda lens is, what if you looked at yourself and you saw the wholeness of who you are and the perfection of who you are and the wisdom of who you are? Um, and that is like if you could move through life with that lens, like, and the gift of your life, no matter how much suffering, it's been a gift, right? And because I've been through a lot of suffering. This has been a hard life for me, this lifetime. But apparently I asked for it, when I was like getting sent down. It was like, all right, you want to send me back to Earth? Great, but bring it on, baby. And thank you. They brought it on. But the bringing it on was the gift. All of those moments of suffering um, were the gift of my transformation that brought me to yoga and Ayurveda, that brought me to hypnotherapy. And then, yeah, there's a flip where you go, actually, this is just making me better, stronger, and more powerful and helping the world.
Yeah, you said something there where I thought like, yeah, exactly, because that's the reconnection
Mm,
I'm I'm talking about, and what you said about the inner wisdom, because I do believe we all have the inner wisdom anyway.
mm,
But since we are often enough not on that level reconnected with ourselves,
mm,
we can't hear it. We can't we can't get there. That is something that frustrated me when I started my own journey. I was like, someone said to me, it's like, oh, the answers are all within you. And I was like, I asked, I didn't hear any answers, so it can't be like that.
mm,
But actually, now I know they are really there, but
mm,
I was not in a point where I could have heard them because I wasn't connected. I wasn't connected with my body. I wasn't connected with my soul. I wasn't connected with my past, with any parts of me, self-love, self-worth, whatsoever, you name it.
mm.
I was just, walking around and living my life. But yeah, the deeper the connection is, the more wisdom just comes out. And where you
Yeah,
think like comes out of nowhere, no, it has always been there. I just couldn't hear it.
yeah, totally, totally. We have an innate intelligence, like this human vessel that we've been given, this body that we've been given, this like the mind we've been given, the emotions we've been given, like it's so wise. Like so wise that the heart beats without you making it beat. You breathe without having to breathe. You eat an apple and the body turns it into the nourishment that you need and builds the cells that you need and it literally turns it into you. Um and we are powerful beyond measure, right? And wise beyond measure. But the journey is reconnecting to that wisdom, absolutely, and reconnecting to that power. And and knowing, learning to listen. And in my early days, I was very disconnected. Like reclaiming my voice and my authenticity has been a journey for me. And in the early days of teaching yoga, a huge focus of, because we teach what we need to learn, right? Was about learning to listen to the whisper of your own heart, right? Learning to tune into our soul. And now I don't teach that anymore, right? And I guess it's because I don't need to learn it anymore, right? I teach now, like, how do you step into your feminine strength and power, right? How
Hmm.
do you kind of push through to that next level? Because the wisdom, I've reconnected to the wisdom of my this vessel, which is giving me the ability to have this life experience, which is powerful. It's powerful stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like once you've stepped into that part, you will hear your heart anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's where anxiety and depression and anger and fear, like it's all just a disconnection from the truth of your own heart. Like you're too afraid of, and I know because I've been there, right? Like I was too afraid to express what I really wanted and to go after it because of the fear of not getting it, being failing, success, whatever it might be, being the consequences. So it's like the less the more you can dive deep and connect to your wisdom and hear the voice of your innate wisdom, the less stressed, the less anxious, the less depressed, the less angry, the less fearful you become. And that's freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Do
what we're really
you
for.
do you sometimes feel, because I feel like that when I look at myself now and I compare myself to before I started with hypnotherapy, it's like, wow, I've walked it was a long path in time, but just there was so much development on the way that I sometimes look back and I think like I'm a different person now. I mean, of course, I'm still the same person in some ways, but my inner world has shifted so much that just because of my inner world shifted, of course, I look through my eyes differently onto this world. And Yeah. So do you feel like for your path anyway, because you've been on it for a long time, do you feel that hypnotherapy did help you achieve that too? This, wow, okay, the last 1.5 years, big shifts.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Big shifts. Yeah, big shifts. And I think like you saying the shift is an internal one, right? That like we project onto the world whatever it is that we're carrying inside of us. So it's like you know, men might be really scary until we shift that internal relationship with the masculine, right? And then we see the beauty of the world. And so the internal, so yes, the last 18 months has been a huge phase of growth, but I think the last 5 years has been a huge phase of growth. I think I got to a certain point in my own growth trajectory and needed the challenge of starting my own business to take myself to the next level again of going back deep into the fear and the like seriously like if you it's leaving the security of anyway so it's a journey um and the last 18 months have definitely been me really claiming my wholeness
Mm.
and my own perfection and like we can hear a lot of stuff like I think and this is the difference between talk therapy and stuff that goes hypnotherapy or other stuff that goes deeper into the subconscious is that you can hear people say or you can understand something intellectually or theoretically um, but you have to experience it for the transformation to happen. You have to feel it for it to transform. And feelings are not, my comfort zone. Like, I'm
For a
a
lot of
very,
people, they're not.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a very heady person. I'm very intellectual. I analyze things. I'm a researcher at heart. Like, give me the science, give me the analytics. Like, I'm like, like happy in that world. Get me into the watery world of emotion, and I'm like, whoa, this is scary. I want to run, right? I don't want to feel my feelings. Um, but I think in the hypnotherapy, there's no running from feeling your feelings. And then when you've had the experience of feeling your feelings, then you get better at it. And it's like, I don't need to be hypnotized to cry anymore. I can just cry and
Mm.
feel the sadness or be in the sadness. And that had been a practice probably for at least the last 10 years of learning how to feel and digest emotion. But definitely the hypnotherapy sessions, like there's been a lot of tears. Like, yeah, it's been a lot of crying and feeling of feelings that hadn't, needed to be expressed. Mm.
Yeah, that is the usual. I yeah, there are most sessions with big emotions because of exactly that, because a lot of our feelings have been stored and pushed down from our conscious mind. Like, no, we push it down, put it aside, push it down, put it aside. But if something is pushed down and put aside for, let's say, 4 decades, it's the interesting thing is it might look so big, but it's not. It's still the same feeling. It's just within those 4 decades, you're maybe so afraid of that feeling that you don't want to look there. But it's still, once you feel it, you release it. And that's where the shift happens. And I think for a lot of people who have been in counseling or in just talk therapy, there can be points where they feel it's not working. I've done that for 10 years now. I don't, nothing's happening. And that is because if I just talk about my story, I
Mm,
don't go and feel.
mm, mm,
And that's what the embodiment and the hypnotherapy is, yeah, so big about is this. We go there and we feel the feeling that wanted to be felt
mm.
last year, 2 years, 40 years ago. And we now feel it, let it happen, and then it's resolved.
Yeah.
And that's the part where it's like, oh, I feel so light. I feel a big burden has just fallen off my shoulders or something. It's like, yes, because you have been carrying that burden for all the time, It was
Yeah.
your it was your choice, even though if you didn't necessarily choose it consciously, but your system chose that path for you, but you don't have to stay like that.
Yeah. Which is why we call it enlightenment, right? From Ayurvedic and yoga perspective, it's like you become lighter, right? The heaviness of the emotions that you're holding within, or the stories that you're telling yourself, or those beliefs that are holding you back, like as you dissolve them, right? And that's kind of that we call that kind of samskara and karma in yoga, and they kind of, it's literally like it leaves its own scent in your system, and the scent is, it needs to be released, and which is why we do the physical yoga practice, and it's
Mm.
hatha yoga. It has to be hard to move the energy through the body, to push it through the blocks and free that kind of emotion. So you can cry on the yoga mat as well as in a hypnotherapy session, but you definitely become lighter and freer and more relaxed and calmer and happier. And then the fear of doing any kind of therapy kind of subsides, because you start realizing that actually every time I do therapy or hypnotherapy or whatever it might be, I feel lighter.
Mm.
And that's good.
Yeah, it feels good. Yes.
Yeah. And we all
Yeah.
want to feel good. Yeah. But we're so used to not feeling good. Like that's the dominant kind of feeling in our culture is shitty, right? We're like, it's heavy and we're not feeling good. And like, how would it be if you just let yourself feel good and enjoy life and relax and stop being so serious? It's actually pretty amazing.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sky's the limit. Mm,
Yeah, true.
mm.
I think we do need to find an end to this wonderful conversation, although I could carry on.
Yeah.
Is there anything in your world, in your business happening soon or going on right now where people can jump on into your work?
Right now, we've got a yin and pin next Sunday, so that's how we met. So there's that happening next Sunday, or Sunday the 5th of July, but it's the next two first Sundays of the month. And then working with me, it's basically right now, it's either one-on-one coaching where we do work through what are your blocks to having your optimal weight and wellness. Or if you're in Christchurch, there are every now and again we have spaces for personal training, but it is getting fuller. Like I'm having to say no to a lot of people. So
Oh,
I'm looking at ways that I can cater to more women at once, so that they're getting the transformation that they need in their bodies.
yeah. Oh, then I'm lucky that I still get my PT.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to the next one. It's not that long.
Yeah,
Um, Thank you so much for this
no
talk.
problem. Thank you.
And yeah, people can find you through your website and contact you, and I'll put the links where they belong.
Right.
And you are on the socials anyway. People can follow you.
Yeah, perfect. And I will put your links in mine when I put this up in my podcast as well so that people can find you and because you've got a great, is it three sessions deal, which I think is fantastic value and definitely worth it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
cool.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Um,
And yeah, maybe we do that again. We'll see.
absolutely. All right. All the best.